One pawn left. Your king is miles away. Can you win this endgame? White wants to play b5. Can it become a queen? Can it outrun the black king? You draw an imaginary square from b5 to b8. That's 3 squares. Then you extend the same distance sideways. What you get is the square going from b5 to b8 and e5 to e8. Rule of the square says if black king can step inside this square on their next move, they can catch the pawn. The black king is on g4. That means they can't stop the pawn. Let's check it. Black king goes to f5, white pawn to b6, black king is running, white pawn is running faster, black king to d7, and we have a queen. White is clearly winning. Remember, pawn endgames are a speed race. The rule of the square tells you who is faster. But what if black king was just one square closer on f4? It's still a race. White still wants to get pawn to that b8 square and queen. Let's see what happens if white plays b5 now. Let's draw our imaginary square again. So it's the same square as before in the previous example, b5 to b8 and e5 to e8. But there is a big difference now, because black king on their next move can step inside the square, and it's a draw. Let's check it. So black plays e5 now, white is running to b6, black is approaching, white is running and reaching almost the queening square, but black is here, so white gets the queen, and we have one very happy black king here. But wait, could have white tried something else to support their pawn and approach with a king? Let's check it. White king goes to e2, black king follows to e4, white king comes to d2, black king follows to d4, and we can already see how this is going to end. No escape for the pawn. So remember, if white king is too far away to support their pawn and black king can step inside the square on their next move, black is faster and it's a draw. This is where rule of the square gets a bit tactical. White to move. Should we capture the pawn on d6 or push our pawn to c6? Let's check capture and how it works first. So if we capture the pawn on d6, our square now looks like this. So it goes from d6 to d8 and f6 to f8. And black king can easily, on their next move, step into the square. They catch us. Draw. But what if we pushed c6 instead? Now look at this square. The square is now from c6 to c8 and e6 to e8. Can the black king now step inside the square? No, they can't. White is too fast and white wins. So remember, sometimes passing a pawn is better than taking a pawn. Keep the opponent's king outside the square. This position looks tricky, but it's actually quite simple once you know the rule of the square. Two connected pawns versus a king. The king is perfectly placed to catch one pawn. So why is white still winning? You push any pawn, let's say c5. If black catches the d4 pawn, you simply push to c6. Let's draw our square now. It goes from c6 to c8 to e6 to e8. Can black king now step inside this square? No, the pawn is faster and the white is winning. So the principle is two connected pawns always beat a long king, because when the king captures one, the other one runs free. This is why connected pawns are so powerful. A real game scenario. Pawns are 2 to 1. White to move. Can you find the only winning move here? I'll give you 3 seconds to either think about it or stop the video and think about it a little bit more. 3, 2, 1. So the right move here is only one, and it is actually b5, offering the pawn. Why so? If black takes, we simply push our pawn to a5. Let's draw our famous square here. So it is 3 squares from a5 to a8, 3 squares sideways towards d5, and then we make it a square all the way to d8. Can black king now step inside the square? No, it cannot. White is clearly winning. But taking the pawn on b5 is not the only answer from black, correct? Black can play a few other moves. Let's see, is white still winning after them? So let's say that black simply approaches with the king and plays king to e5. White can simply take the pawn on a6, and now we can draw our famous square, a6 to a8, to c6 and to c8. And we can very quickly see that the black king cannot on their next move enter that square. White is clearly winning. Let's look at another one. What if after b5 from our side, black simply pushes and plays a5? In this particular case, b pawn will be the one doing the queening. So we will push b6, and we can again draw our famous square. It goes now in different squares from b6 to d6 to d8 and b8. And we can also see that there is no way that black king can enter this square. But I hear you, there is one more option, correct? So let's look at that one. What if after black takes on b5 and we start to push, what if black pushes also and plays b4? Can they also take the queen? But now we will draw another type of square, because now we can also calculate for black using rule of the square, can white enter that square and catch the pawn? And we can very quickly see that white can do so. So whatever black is playing, white king is able to catch that pawn. So if now black plays with a king, white continues pushing the pawn. If black plays with a pawn, white continues with e1 or e2 and very simply catches that pawn. So white is winning in every possible scenario here. Final position. Both sides have a passed pawn. Black pawn is clearly running away and is out of the square for the white king. Does it mean that black is winning here? Actually, white can save the game using the rule of the square and creating a threat of its own. Can you see it now? I will give you 3 seconds to stop the video and try to think about it for yourself. 3, 2, 1. Did you find it? The right move is actually king to e5, and that is the only drawing move for white. Do you know why? Black has 2 options now, but both are only drawing. The first one, the simplest one, is simply keep marching their pawn towards the queening square, and nothing can stop it, that's true. But also, after king plays to d6, white will also draw the queen at the same time as black, and it is a draw. Let's look at the other option. What if black calculates this and says, fine, I'll remove the threat. I'll take that pawn on c6. Well, in this particular case, we see immediately after knowing the rule of the square that white can easily catch the black pawn, and it is a draw with 2 bare naked kings on the board. So remember, sometimes the best defense is creating your own threat. Make your opponent worry about your pawn too. The rule of the square is your shortcut to calculating pawn races. It is also the first video in my Endgame Unlocked series. Next time I'm going to cover the most important concept in pawn endgames, the opposition. See you on the board.